Stay spooky, guys. Today, we're gonna get rotten. Hey YouTube, welcome to another episode of Spooky Dad. If you're new to the channel, we look at the spooky side of creativity for kids. We look at home activities, food, books, play and events, all for the enjoyment and development of children, all without the nightmares. I invite you to subscribe, tap that notification bell and share the scare. And to my returning fans and patrons like Mackenzie Kerr, stay spooky friend. October, the best month of the year. All this month we are going to be looking at the fun you can have with pumpkins. The fun you can have with pumpkin containers, how to carve the original article, with an additional extra long episode coming up at Halloween, so be sure to check that one out. And these, how to make our very own rotting pumpkins. A huge shout out goes to 2 YouTube channels today for these amazing concepts. Monster Tutorials and Hollywood Haunters. These guys make year-round spooky stuff, so if you like what you see, guys, I highly encourage you to go give them a follow.
So as you can see in front of me, I have 4 different types of store-bought pumpkins that I've added a rotten vibe to. We have a solid plastic variety with an additional light inside. This has had the basic black paint dry brushed over it, and that's it. I'll most likely redo this one again at some point, so be sure to check out my Instagram stories and I'll post it there. We've got a softer plastic pumpkin that I use cling film around to add that appealing skin texture, as well as this awesome looking web across the eye. That was a happy accident, by the way. We've also got a pre-carved styrofoam pumpkin, which again featured some cling film and part of the process that we're going to be looking at today. And finally, my newest additions, heavily inspired by the 2 channels that I mentioned earlier. Fun fact, only one of these has a name, which is the one with the teeth. Winston Gordsley III. Thanks for that. So be sure to drop a comment on my Instagram page if you'd like to name the others. The best names will be announced on the Halloween episode. So good luck, guys.
Before you continue, folks, I highly encourage the parents take the lead on certain aspects of this project. If your children aren't careful, there is a high chance that they can get hurt. If you're happy for them to do this, then that's fine, but please make sure that it's done under the strictest of supervisions. Again, they can get hurt if they're not careful. If you're not too sure what to do, guys, then watch the video first so you can see what I'm doing, and then you can make that decision afterwards if you feel confident. So, enough blabbering, guys. Let's make our way into the garden, and we're going to be making our very own corpse pumpkins.
So to make these, you are going to need the following. A store-bought pumpkin. For the ones that we're going to make today, you'll want a foam pumpkin with a nice thick skin on top. I say this because when it comes to heating them up later, the skin is going to bubble and peel back, creating that lovely rotten texture that we need. You'll also need a marker pen, kitchen roll, a good few sheets of them, a heat gun. Now we need this at medium temperature, so I would urge parents to do this part and to make sure you have some thick gardening gloves on. Some PVA glue, black spray paint, a clean sponge, although I can guarantee it won't be after we're done, a craft scalpel and stronger glue, just in case. I found it's better to have backups rather than not have them, some green and white acrylic paint, and lastly, as I mentioned before, heat-proof gloves, such as gardening gloves. These are probably the best ones that you can get. So, to begin, draw a face on the pumpkin using the marker. Now you'll want it to be slightly smaller than how you originally want it to be. The reason being is when the heat gun is applied, the skin on the pumpkin will peel back, making it that much bigger. Take the scalpel and cut out the areas drawn on. At this point, we're only peeling this part off, so don't worry about cutting too deep yet. Although it's not the end of the world if you do, because the next step is to take out the sections from the areas of the mouth, eyes, and nose. Now you don't want to go too deep. Again, the heat gun and the spray paint will eat away at parts of the foam. So in this case, apply the phrase, less is more. Using the heat gun, go over the pumpkin, staying a little longer in certain areas to make the skin bubble. When it starts to bubble, that's when you'll want to move on to another area. You don't need to hover over one area for too long to get the desired effect. Just be aware that if you do, this could cause the plastic to melt and turn black. So in this case, I thoroughly recommend that you do this outside in a well-ventilated area. Otherwise, be sure to wear a mask. Before the pumpkin has a chance to cool down, take your gloves and glide them across the pumpkin skin. This will make the skin more wrinkled as well as puffy, so you'll have additional textures on top. Using the black spray paint, lightly spray over the face, ensuring that you can get as much of the inside of the eyes, nose and mouth coated on at least one layer of paint. Now this part is important and it is time sensitive, because without allowing the paint to dry, you need to take your kitchen paper and dab off the excess paint. Please don't wipe it. The idea is that you want to get rid of the upper layer of the paint, allowing it to add detail to the lower levels of the skin, giving you more depth. You'll need to apply this to the rest of the pumpkin when you feel you're ready. Using the acrylic paint, begin with dipping the sponge onto the green paint and dab small dots around the sections of the face. These are going to be our mold spores, so it's important to turn the sponge as you do this, so you don't get the same pattern. Once it's done, go over those spots with the white. Why not mix the two as well to get different shades and apply around the rest of the pumpkin? Remember, less is more. You don't want to coat the whole thing in green and white. Little accents are just fine. The idea of the sponge is that it allows it to be circular, so it looks more like a regular spore. As an optional move, I also took the PVA and stronger glue and dabbed tiny areas of the pumpkin in this. I then took a cotton ball and tapped the still wet glue, ensuring that parts of the cotton ball had stayed on, which gave the pumpkin a rotten fur to add to the spores. Now this was the first time I tried something like this, and to be honest, while I was happy with the result, I think a bigger pumpkin would benefit from this. So just be aware of that depending on the size of pumpkin you get.
Well, that's it for this episode, guys. Let me know on the Instagram page. Let me know how you got on with this project, or if you feel there's anything you want to add to this in order to make it your own. Don't forget, guys, as always, if you want to see these videos a little bit earlier, I invite you to become a Patreon. But if YouTube's more your thing, I understand. As always, guys, I'll ask you to hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, and share the scare. So, until next time, guys, stay spooky.